Welcome back, everybody. Uh, Hopefully you managed to watch the videos yesterday on day one. I'll be with you about 1 p.m., mainly kind of coaching role. Hopefully you may have started the writing already. I've got a video here about a guide to writing, but you might want to continue straight away, which is fine. Watch it later to have a break. So you've got access to the unit descriptor, the description of the unit. You've got the mapping for content for the particular unit. You've got a learner guide template you can put your writing into. So you can start to write the unit. If you use AI, you can see my prompts in the folder, but I'll first get onto a guide to writing. But before I do, I'll just show you where that material is. So you should now have access to these folders. You should have access to workshop June, and you can see there's the prompts in there. If you want to access those, I'll open up for you. You can copy and paste it. Oh, it's interesting. Or you can download it. Looks like it's a bit of an issue. Whatever you kind of want to do. And in day one, you can see that I've added 3 units for us to get started on. So the idea is that you allocate those to one another. And let me just show you what's inside each one. So you've got the mapping of the content, which you'll use today, and the assessment. You've got a template for the mapping. You don't need that one, but you've got the actual unit itself. Let's see if that opens. They'll outlay the unit for you, which you can compare against the mapping that I've done and get a good sense that that's a document you'll need to have open. You've also got access to the Unit Learner Guide template. And so this is just a blank document. It's got a few styles in it. The styles are outlaid here for you, heading 1, etc. You would have seen that in the video yesterday, the third video about AI. But if you haven't got to that, you can rewatch that one and you'll be ready to go on this project. And I'll see how you're going when I get in there today at 1 p.m. your time. So all the materials there. I think the plan is that you allocate yourself to one of these units, and then I think Robert has put up a development workshop plan here. And the idea being that if you pop your name alongside the units that you're working with, maybe you could uh, put your names together. Who's the instructional designer and who's the subject matter expert? Let's see who's working together. It might be just as easy to go like this. Bendanika works with MEMS, Lena works with Mesgizi, Edwig works with Gladys, and Esther works with Penny and Gumbo. I hope I've got those names right. I probably haven't. But you can decide amongst yourself, just make a list and tell me what you're working on. And then when I get in at 1, I will give you some support, some assistance, and you can pick my brains for ideas. I won't give you any additional instruction unless you would like some greater examination of using AI, which I can happily do for you. All right, so that's the plan for today. Get started on this, get working, see if we can get as much written as we can into the template, and we'll be fine. So just to remind you, in day 1, there's the 3 units. Allocate those amongst the 6 of you who are working on these. 1 SME, 1 instructional designer. Open it up, have a look at the unit, which is the only PDF there. Have a look at the mapping content to give you a guide of what you need to include in your writing and how to set up your topics. And then have a look at the unit guide template because you can start to put your own writing directly in there. Now, if you want to sit together and brainstorm ideas, that's wonderful. I've got an exemplar unit here for you. with mapping, and also a learner guide as well. That's it there. And you can see the units there. So if you want to have a look through that, this one is finished. So it's designed to give you a bit of an idea what it could look like. You can copy the style if you want, or you can come up with your own. And if you've got ChatGPT, I'll talk to you about generating images. This is a ChatGPT image. I'll talk about that when I get in, how to add QR codes to videos to make it easier, how to take screen grabs, and then on it goes. So have a look through that. That might give you some ideas as to where you can start and give you a sense of how what we're trying to do here is align this project and these units and the learner guides to practical tasks for learners to learn how to do jobs, tasks on the job. Very practical. A really nice setup. Okay, but I'll give you first of all a short guide to writing, and what I might do is bring the guide up. I don't think you've got access. I can go, here we go. I'll show my Word document instead. So this is it here. It's up on your particular folder. And we've got a few tips and tricks in here. I'll just run through those quickly in this video. You can stop the video at any time and discuss whether you think they're useful or whether you want to add some any additional things in there. So the plan is we write fairly direct, simple language that aims at student understanding and engagement. So addresses the students directly and keeps those explanations concise to maintain some clarity for learners given their language level. So in the guide, I've got some examples here of an original version and how we've rewritten it so it's more in a plain language version. So you have a quick read of those three. Hopefully you can read those. I'll blow it up a bit. I'll give you a minute or two to read through that. That's a really important part of it. And this is where AI can really help us. And yesterday I talked about using the acronym ACSF, level 1 to 2. That's the Australian Core Skills Framework, which describes reading and writing levels and numeracy, as well as oral communication. So this means the AI will understand that and will rewrite the material at that particular level. And that can be really kind of useful for you. So there's a few examples here. The other one is active voice. So active voice is really a thing that causes a lot of people problems. I know I do. The active voice, the other part is passive voice or passive construction of sentences. It just makes the content more lively and easier to understand. It tends to put the user or the person or the group or the organization close to the beginning of the sentence or even starting the sentence. So it's obvious that they're the ones doing the acting. So it's got to encourage this clear, direct communication for effective learning, design, and also clarity as well. So I've got a few examples in the guide for you to have a quick look at. And some examples there where in the active voice, you can see that the noun or the person or the thing or even the student themselves we can address directly is part of the beginning of the sentence. And of course, again, you can use AI to provide that information for you. Ask it in your prompt to always provide you with active voice sentences. And if you're not sure and it doesn't look right, you can ask it to rewrite what it's given you or even what you've written, pop it through it and see if it's at the right voice level and also active too. The other part of it is the structure and organization of piece of writing. So this is really about organizing content logically with the storyboard, subheadings for subtopics and bulleted lists to guide students through the material fairly smoothly. So we try to have, not too many bullet points and, at the maximum, say maybe 6 to 10 words in each bullet point just to help you. But really thinking about how can we break the task down into activities and steps that lead the learner slowly towards the understanding of a task in your unit. So this is where you can have a good conversation with the SME, because you can discuss the actual task and get them to help you break it down, and then begin to think what are the small steps in between mastery of the entire task that a learner would need to be able to do and know step by step. Probably the easiest way. So there's two tones here. You can use the facilitative tone, which is good for instructions, aiming for a conversational, clear and approachable voice, very concise and clear. And you can use an authoritative voice when you're dealing with subject matter content to keep it interesting. So facilitative for instruction, authoritative tone for when you're talking about content that the student needs to know. So let's have a look at some examples of that. Let's give you two there to have a quick look at. So that's structure and organization. I guess the other sense we ask you to think about is also being direct. To start with the main point to keep the writing focused and purposeful. And then you can repeat that in your last sentence if you need to, just to remind people. Avoiding unnecessary words and being direct in your communication is really important. And if you're a bit worried about that, as all instructional designs are, then that's where you can put it through your preferred AI tool and ask it to evaluate it against your Australian Core Skills Framework level 1 or 2 or ACSF 1 or 2, and it will bring the language down to that level which is probably what your students are going to be able to work in. Now, every industry has its own technical language, and learners need to have that. And so it's important to actually put that into the storyboard. If they're going to be entering industry, they need to know that language. But we need to explain it and contextualize it as part of explaining a process or a task. And then the learner can understand its relevance. So here's an example. I'll give you a chance to read it. It's about wide area networks. You can see terminology is defined, and then we can use an acronym, WANs and LANs, and then after it, we can keep using that on the assumption that the student understands. So this is quite nice short writing for this particular one. And it's not explained on its own. It's explained in the context of where in this unit, a network technician would begin to understand what the difference is between those two things. You might also want to put up a glossary. I don't have time to do a glossary of the exemplar unit. And sometimes industries have jargon. I'm sure this happens all around the world. This is in industry language, and they're often phrases that don't really actually understand if you're not in that particular system. So talk to your SMA as to where the jargon is. Well, this is kind of informal language a lot of people use in the industry, so it might be good to use, And then idioms are good too for the same purpose. And here's an example of when you might use them, and an example of each. You can read this guide as you go along as well. And then we have them have inclusive language. This is a worldwide thing now, using language that reflects cultural and gender diversity. There will be specific things in your country that are preferred that I do not know, but you will know very well. But here, these are pretty typical universal ones. We have people from all genders, all abilities now in training. So we include them. We might use for person and they instead of for man and he or she, and instead of tradesman, tradesperson. So it's pretty straightforward. So here's some tips. Choose names for characters in scenarios that reflect a variety of cultural backgrounds. So if you're creating case studies or scenarios for learners who people have roles in those scenarios, then think about the characters in your scenarios and give them names that reflect your cultural diversity and the likely makeup of your cohort as well. This is a big issue for us here in Australia because we have so many nations that make up the country now. This may not be such a thing for you in Namibia, but I'm sure that different cultural, different regions, even the divide between the city and the country, have various names or identifiers, and so including them all just makes everybody feel like they're part of it. And then, thinking about stereotypes, stereotypes are pretty unique worldwide, but they're also specific to different countries. So your case study should reflect people from various culture and gender backgrounds. And then by showing people in a range of roles that are not traditionally thought of as theirs, you can challenge some of those traditional stereotypes, especially if you've got young learners coming through. And respectful language, being aware of terms that are culturally sensitive. I'm sure you're very aware of this. Avoiding language that have different meanings or be offensive in different cultures. Now, because you're all trainers now, I'm sure you're and SMEs, you're going to be very aware of this and be fine with that. Different perspectives. So make sure your stories and your case studies and your examples are a wide range of cultural experience and viewpoints, particularly about the industry that the person's going to actually move into. You've got clothing production, from what I understand. You've got quite a variety of small to medium enterprises and obviously some large employers and quite a bit of variety, I would imagine, in terms of the level of equipment and technology used throughout the country. So try to capture as much of that as you can. So some things you can do to do this is look at role profiles for people described in a particular unit. And this one's an example for the solar installation industry. So you can describe what a day in the life of install looks like, everything they're going to be kind of doing, and then do a step-by-step overview of the story as they walk around the installation tasks that are common, measuring and analyzing roof area, setting up scaffolding, racking, securing panels, and so on. And then highlight the skill application about what the concepts are that they need. So this is a really nice device for you to be able to introduce the language by guiding someone through the task that's described in the unit as an exemplar or an example, and you introduce these concepts as one big story. So case studies are really kind of good. And then what you can include is information about problem solving. You can discuss roadblocks the character might meet, and look at the different tasks that might have learning in it that the student needs to get to, calculations, optimizations, identifying equipment, maybe numeracy and literacy if they've got to consult policies and manuals, all sorts of things. And then you can engage the learners in the planning out. And if you look at my exemplar, topic 3, this is basically about this, about drawing a portfolio and then creating a work plan for one garment to be created. And then finally, reflection is always useful to see if the work's been done to the level that you think. So you can pose in the learner guide some simple questions or discussions for them to work together as peers for them to be able to understand their strengths and areas for growth in the particular task. Now, I'm sure as IDs, you'll be very aware of this using multimedia elements, photos and videos. I've used quite a few YouTube videos in mine for particular tasks. We face the same issue as you'll face in Namibia, which is that it's often difficult. We're only a small country, despite being a large physical mass, of finding videos that are not foreign, not American, so that describe the tasks in the way we do. They don't use centimeters, and they have different jargon in industry, so it's often a little bit difficult. So choose your videos carefully. But sometimes for tasks, to demonstrate tasks, that's all you can use. You might need to put a guide, use videos that have captions. Most YouTube videos will have those, and integrate the multimedia into storyboard as part of a kind of logical sequence that reflects the flow of the learning. So just choose multimedia that relates to what you've written about and only if it supports understanding. Now, one of the things I can talk to you about when I get in there is how to use YouTube video to generate a summary of the video or even some questions to put in a storyboard before or after the video. So before the video, you might ask them to look at 3 particular points that are really important, or 4, whatever you want, list those, and then give them a quiz after it. So they've got some purpose for watching the video if it's not instruction. Now, while we're about H5P, so you've got a writing snippet that you might be interested in. This is I'd probably bring this down even more thinking about our particular cohort if I can. So what I can kind of do here, maybe I'll just show you, is if I copied that, because it's still a bit lengthy for our cohort, let's see if we can give the old Copilot a bit of work. I'm going to ask you to give a more detailed response. If you've got an account, you can use this. But if not, it's no big deal. And I'm going to say, can you rewrite this? For a learner, we are going to use that core skills framework level 1 to 2. So pretty much entry level. There we go. See if we can get it down. It's already not too bad, but we might want to get it down even more. There you go. Let me blow that up for you. It has certainly brought it right down. Now, if you do this, just compare the two. You can do this with your own writing to make sure it hasn't stripped out anything that you think is really creative. And then you can say, well, can you create a quiz from this? Or you want something, you're not really sure? Give me 3 options. e.g. quiz, worksheet, peer discussion. Let's see what it comes up with. And then this is a good prompt because then it gives you activities you can choose. So it's giving us a quiz, 200 files. It's only given us 2 questions, which is probably perfect for that. So that's a nice option. You might choose that and rewrite it. You don't need to, all of this, you just need the questions and then you can put it into your storyboard. You don't need any of this. You don't need this. Here's a worksheet. It's giving you some ideas. You'd have to create the worksheet. So let's see if it'll do it. And there's peer discussion, which is sometimes a good way to go. Well, it gives the teacher or the trainer some guidance as well. Now, I like this number 2 one. I'm going to say I can choose any of these. It's up to you. Have a discussion between you. See what it comes up with. That's pretty good. You just got to find the pictures. And you can find that through Creative Commons, which I'll talk to you about when I get with you live. So that's kind of one way you can go about checking writing to see if it's good. This is probably better for a higher level learner because it's got clear, concise language. It avoids jargon. It defines the terms and it uses an active voice. And it's pretty short. You're not going to be overwhelmed. My students, they're at level 4 and they struggle with reading as it is as well. So here's some tips with working together with each other. So I might go back to the PowerPoint for this one, make it a bit easier for you to stick with. I'll show you with these PowerPoints. I'll upload them before tonight for you to work with. So here's some tips for working together with a subject matter expert and an instructional designer. So if you're using AI, double check the terminology, steps and standards to ensure that it's accurate. So using AI is fine. When we're on our own as instructional designers, it's often difficult to verify what we've written is accurate. So this is why you've got an SMA, to give you input, to give you ideas, and to check the accuracy of what we're writing for the unit and for the industry there in Namibia. You can ask for workplace examples. So it could be an incident, good practices, or mistakes are always good teachers. Providing cases where a person makes a mistake or forgets something allows you to start with a question, what went wrong here and how could you fix it? So it gets the student thinking, whereas if you give them, the correct example of applying it, then you can only get so much learning out of that. So never underestimate bad examples or things going really wrong as in a good educator for good practice. Break down complex steps. So you can ask the SME, well, new person on the job, what would they need to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth? So you start to get that logic. Ask about common learner mistakes. So what do trainees often get wrong or forget once they've graduated. And if you've got some industry input, they're wonderful for telling you how job ready the people they get from training and education institutes are. What don't they know? They might have been trained in it, but the penny hasn't dropped for them. And this could be all sorts of things. Understanding policy and procedure is a big one, and laws and safety information and acting on it. And also at this level, probably appropriate communication on the job is a tough one. So ask the learner about those things that are missing. And you can also obviously ask for resources, manuals, checklists, diagrams, or labels, or even build a simple policy together. So if there's a particular aspect of the competency, you can ask when during the day does it happen? Does it happen indoors or outside, alone, in a team, with equipment or without equipment? Is there any personal protective equipment involved? What next step does it lead to? Often learners at level one are doing tasks that get passed to somebody else. So giving them a sense of what that passing on is about really helps build the understanding of the level of quality that they need to aspire to. Find out about tools and settings. What brand or size is most common in Namibia? I think the unit of competency says that centimeters is used in the clothing industry. What settings do you start with? You can have discuss early and often stories. Can you tell me a time about this task went well or badly? And that makes really good fodder for you writing case studies. And discuss safety procedures as well. What are the main risks in this task? What PPE is needed? Who checks? And also who guides or what guides the safety steps? Is it a policy? Is it a procedure? Is it a supervisor who's watching every step of what the learner? And confirm what's outdated or changing. So if you get some information, this is often from a link online. It's still how the job is done today, or has it changed? Is there anything that new learners should know? Okay, so to bridge learning and theory, link concepts to tasks. We've got knowledge. How does it apply to a task? Especially laws and regulations, and they're best explained through a story or a case study or even a scenario. Show why procedures matter through case studies and what can go wrong. How following instructions, whether from a supervisor, co-worker, or policy and procedure, impact what we're doing. All right. I'll talk to you more about copyright later. And final tip, think like a learner. Write so they can do the task. So this might be good for you to swap your drafts while you're there, to get some input from each other. Use stories, case studies, and scenarios, and characters. Keep it clear, useful, concise, I think, for this cohort, and relevant. And use the exemplar unit learner guide as an example for you. Okay, so if you haven't already done so, match up into pairs, one instructional design and one SME. Choose a unit, then visit the unit mapping for content to give you a sense of what you need to include in each topic. And then it's up to you how that mapping comes to life through your activities, examples, your content, case studies, scenarios, and potential tasks that the learner will use to focus on each topic. So, as I said, visit the exemplar unit guide for ideas. And you can add to them as you're discussing. There's a design ideas column in the mapping guide that you can actually enter things in if you have a quick look. All right. I think that's enough from me. It's probably a good time for you to all get into the work. So use the unit descriptor, use the mapping together, open the learner guide, start to write the unit. You can rewatch my I video if you need a revision. So in the next slide, you'll see that it's there. This is it here. I don't think it'll play. Oh, yes, it will. So you can watch that. If you haven't seen that already, I will be in around 1 p.m. your time. I'm coming in via Zoom. Provide that Zoom link to Pene, and I'll see you then. And good luck, everybody. Take care. Bye for now.